Okay. I think you're first on the agenda.
No.
Is it me?
Well, so
I'm happy.
the first, after calling the meeting to order, the first thing we have to do is approve the agenda and approve the meeting minutes. As always, our meeting minutes are recorded and they will be posted on our website. I'm saying will be because while I have a recording of the meeting of the minutes and had to use it to correct errors in a story, it has not been posted on the website because as I tried to post it this afternoon, I had to fight with it. So it should be up this evening. So I apologize for that matter. I have no addition to the agenda at current, so if we would like to, motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Did you have something?
No, I was just going to
Okay.
say that.
All in favor? All opposed? All right. The agenda has been approved. So before we get into our old business, we have two presentations. One from Yuting Lee, Dean of the Graduate School, and the other from Dr. Ken Anderson, who is representing the Final Examination Committee. So I'm going to let Dean Lee go first, and then Dr. Anderson.
Thank you for this presentation in GPSC and Johnson Flower and Clay Olson. And as usual, at the beginning of every fall semester, I come to the GPSC to communicate with you. First of all, I welcome you, especially your new recent or last semester elected members. If you are new members of GPSC, I welcome you to this very important constituencies. And you are the voice of our graduate students. And please do not underestimate the importance and the value of the voice of our graduate students, graduate and professional students. And I remember 3 years ago, I came here for interview. And in fact, one of the presidents of GPSC was Matt on the committee. Okay. And I shared with him my value and philosophy for graduate students. That is total quality care. In other words, before graduate students or professional students come to the graduate school or law school or school of medicine, we need to recruit the best and brightest. And you are the best and brightest. That's why you accepted in the graduate school. Okay. So that means before they come to the graduate school or law school or school of medicine. And second, okay, and we must do our best to take good care for our graduate students and professional students. So that means, okay, we do whatever we can support you. You are at the graduate school. I'm sure you're going to earn a degree. Doesn't matter, master's degree, law school, law school, law degree, or JD, or MD, or PhD. It's important to complete to get a degree. And we make sure you reach this goal, help you to reach this goal. So that's why we do our best to take good care of you. And then not only help you to complete the degree to graduate, and at least, okay, I would like to reconnect with our alumni because today you are our graduate students or professional students. And with a few years, you will be our lawyer, very loyal and supportive alumni. And that's my job. And that's why, for recruitment and also support you while you're at the graduate school and also visit with alumni, we connect with alumni. That's total quality care for our students, graduate students. That's why you're very important, okay. And second, I would like to show you a copy of our graduate school strategic plan. And I know if you want electronic, you can pass around. I will be glad to send electronic copy to you. And in this, again, this is an ongoing process. We started the dialogue or discussion of strategic plan about a year ago. And some of you include, Jonathan Flower and Clay and some of our previous graduate students give the feedback and the graduate council to you and some other constituencies. And I invite you to go over these and send me an email, and I will be glad to send an electronic copy to you, and you can look at this. And in the very beginning, you can see the philosophy total quality care for our graduate students. That's the very beginning. And I do not want to talk about mission or vision because they are in the catalog. Okay, a graduate catalog. What I want to point out the key function and strategy for our graduate school. There are 5 important directions. What are those 5? Number 1, we need to work together to increase our enrollment. You know that, okay, by day 10, that means 10 states enrollment, we have about 3,000 students. So exactly 2,957 students. And we lost almost 226 students. So we need to work together, and if you see the data, about 5 years ago, we had 4,000 students. 2012, we had 4,000 students. Because of state budget cut, because of other factors, we lost almost 1,000 students. And you know that, okay, in the past 2 years, we cut the GA almost 20 to 25%. It give a direct impact on us. And that's why we do my best to protect graduate citizenship, because they affect our graduate education and our graduate enrollment, and also the quality of our graduate students. So that's number 1 in enrollment. Number 2, maintain high quality. That's why, you know, we make sure we work together with you, advisor, you graduate director in your department, and you chair. And I know that, okay, a degree, doesn't matter doctor degree or master's degree or law degree, it's a value. It means academic excellence. It's our job to maintain academic quality and excellence. So that's number 2, strategic number 2. Strategic number 3, promote diversity, equity, and communication. You know that we have a long way to go to support diversity and equity and communication. It's important, okay. And I know recently there's a DECA, this issue here. We need to support those who are affected by DECA. And that's part of diversity. And number 4, advocate and improve graduate education best practices. And that means, okay, this involves, okay, retention, customer service, as well as efficiency. If you have some good comments, suggestions to improve the practices, either in your department or in your college or in our shop, that means graduate school, we will be more than willing to listen, to learn. And if necessary, make our performance and service better, we should improve. So number 5, maximizing resources for our graduate students and reconnection and engagement with our graduate alumni. That's why, you know, resources are very limited. And even though in the past 2 years we didn't have state budget, finally we got state budget, okay, in the end of June. But before that we didn't have state budget. We raised money to support our student travel. And we will continue to support graduate students to travel for conference, at least, $50 with a match from your department or your college. Now, it's important. Doesn't matter how much, it's important because let's say you get 50 from graduate school, and then your department give you 50, and your college give you 50, at least 150. That will help you cover your registration, maybe your meal. Maybe now your tickets, at least something. And more importantly, you will gain experience by presentation, by interacting with other professionals in your field. And as you know that, okay, just in the past 18 months, we worked with our University Foundation office. We raised almost $650,000. 2 of them are big estate gift. That means, okay, for scholarship. And the interest will be used support fellowship and scholarship. That's important. That's why it's important now. We take good care of you. Someday, you never know. You will become billionaires, trillionaires. You will give back to SIU, Carbondale. Am I right? So that's important. And to work with you now, and someday you're going to give back. That's why it's part of my job to work with alumni. So, and that's the strategic direction. We have specific actions, and I will welcome you to give us more, initiative, more ideas. So that's number one, the strategic direction. And second, I will give you, some brief report about fundraising, as I mentioned, okay. And also we have an external advisory board. And in fact, we had the first annual meeting among our external advisory board. They are 19 outstanding and very distinguished members. Either they are the previous administrator or our outstanding alums or alumni or faculty members. And in fact, for the first meeting, we invited the president, Jonathan Flower, to be there, and also vice chair of Graduate Council, Junie Partridge, to be there. And we had a very good discussion about, they talked about our strategic direction, the document, which I circulated around. And also we talked about fundraising and we connection with alumni, very important. So that's the second issue I want to share with you. And third, and a few announcements I want to share with you. Number one, we will continue to support graduate students to travel to conference. So if you want to have a presentation, remember, okay, you must have a presentation. In order to give you $50, number one, you must have a presentation. And number two, you must get a match or you have secured other resources, either from your department or from college. I have some example, okay, and I do not want to say which department. And graduate students, in fact, one of the graduate students was going to present at a very important national conference. And there was no match. I called their department. Look, that's you students, your department. If your department does not have budget, you as the chair should, okay, give $20 out of your own pocket. They did. And they did, of course, the department give $20, and then the chair contributed $20, $40. That's good. That's my job, to advocate you. That's why we got to have a match. If you have presentation, and you should, talk to your department. If the department write 0, you can't write 0, then it's my job to call them. That makes sense to you? Mm-hmm. And second, this year we will do a little bit more than just travel. If your department have a research talk, and that at least 10 graduate students will attend that research talk on campus, and we will sponsor $100. And if these events involve more than 2 departments in a college, let's say it's a college event, involve more than 2 departments, we will sponsor that event for at least $250. As long as we have graduate students attend, at least 10 to 15 graduate students. That makes sense to you? Because we want to do whatever we can to support our graduate students and help our graduate students to gain more research and scholarly experience. So that's something new, and in fact I'm going to send this letter to the other deans, other chairs and directors very soon, maybe next week. And that's the new announcement, okay. We will continue to fund a Winnie's Shorts Award. This for material science international students, because the donor basically support material science. We're going to put on the website. In fact, this is our second year to do it. So nothing new to you. And last year we select 2 students, one from chemistry, another from physics. They're from material science. They're national students, first-year students. Number 3, and 3 minutes, see this competition. We did it last year. This year we will continue to do it. However, we do it differently. Last year we do it college, university-wide. This year we want each college have their local competition first. Then they send the best finalist, no more than 2, to the Graduate Council Research Committee, and then we're going to have university-wide competition. Then we send the best one to the Midwest Association of Graduate School for regional and national competition. So, and we're going to send this memo out very soon, okay. And also, Graduate Faculty Mentorship Award of Excellence. This year, we want our graduate students to be involved. So, and as I talked to Clay and Jonathan, last year we didn't have graduate students involved. The concern was shared with me. So I think we need to improve it, because if we want to have excellent faculty member to mentor you, and you should have a voice. And I encourage you and to send your nomination to your chair, and chair support. Some were sent to your dean. Your dean was sent to our graduate school. So just give you a heads up, okay? And also for information, and Kene and I, you know that Kene, usually your vice president of GPSC, meet with me once a month. And we talked about we need to do graduate students satisfaction survey. And because we have a long way to go to improve our service. And we really, at least, okay, we want, if we recruit students here, we want 99% of our graduate students feel pleased, satisfied with their life for learning here. And that's important. Okay. So, and finally, and now, which is for information, we have a graduate notice story, and our 4th issue should come out with a few days. And the 4th issue, that means, our issue is should come with maybe now it's in the middle of editing and publication. And the spring issue will focus on, by the way, the 4th issue will, I think the theme actually is on identity, loyalty, and professional success. So that's the current issue, which you will see within a few days, okay, or within about 2 weeks. Now, for the spring issue, the theme will focus on challenges, opportunity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Very important, and you're going to see the announcement. Let's say if you're a first-year graduate student, if you overcome great challenges or difficulty and get accepted into the graduate school, that's great. And I want you to write impactful and meaningful story, impactful and touching story. If you just write a routine, we may not use it. See what I mean? Now, if you complete your dissertation, your thesis, or if you get a big grant or big awards, or publish a very important article which is cited by many people, recognized by other experts or professionals, that's important, okay, and impactful. And write a story. Remember, okay, graduate story, basically, they are written by our current students and alumni, and also for our current students, alumni, and prospective students. We use this as a very effective tool or instrument to recruit future students, and also talk with donors too. That's important, okay. So, and the next issue will focus on challenges, opportunities, innovation, and entrepreneurship. For example, if you know some alumni who have a big business and started whatever, or a community, very successful, overcome difficulty, and let's say, through public or community project, very touching story. We want to know, very important. So that's my brief presentation. I would like to answer any question or concern or suggestion maybe you have. Yeah.
Question, just because it's new knowledge to me. So you mentioned that if a department is hosting an event, is that correct? That you will sponsor them or meet them, match them for $100 if it's a
Right. If a
event?
department, okay, let's say invite a speaker,
Okay.
at least 10 graduate students.
All right.
Doesn't matter master or doctor, and also they have other sponsorship. We're going to match it $100.
So your match if they have additional sponsorship and
Right,
revenue coming
exactly.
in. And then if it's a co-created event, it's $250.
Well, if it's college-wide even.
College-wide, okay. And so how would someone submit the request for that? Is it through your?
Well, it's sent to our graduate school.
Okay.
And in fact, we're going to post on the website.
All right, so that is available on your website.
Right.
All right, just wanted to verify and make sure.
I have a follow-up to that. What do you mean by if it has 2 sponsors? Can that be like an RSO? Does it have to be another department?
Well, let's say department, okay. Let's if they have important, okay, events. Usually, let me use psychology as example, okay. That's my home department. Anyone in psychology? No, okay. I know some of you from communication studies. They're going to say they're going to have important speakers, and then they have no money. They can first approach their dean, College of Liberal Arts, Mio cum laude. They need to, look, you college, you home college, you need to sponsor first.
Okay.
See what I mean? Because you home college include graduate and undergraduate. See what I mean? Events, I'm sure will be beneficial to not just graduate students, but also to undergraduate students. And faculty member too.
So if GPSC sponsored one of these departmental events, would that fill the criteria for sponsorship?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you be okay if we link to your website of that documentation or put that on our website as well so people are aware of that as far as event funding?
Sure. Yeah, I think you can. We're going to update, put this on. We haven't put it on yet because that's the previous for traveling. And in fact, last year the link is just for $50 for 40 students. Now we do not. For graduate students, we remove the cap. So we did the statistic analysis for the last year. We only had about 80 students. So we estimate another 100. We budget that. Very important. And in fact, I can give this copy, the strategic direction, to maybe copy.
Send me an electronic copy and I will
Sure.
put it on the website.
Yeah. Now, just for information, we just get the travel tag. Okay, this is the next destination. That's for recruitment. SIU Carbondale Graduate School. So I will give it 3 of them. Okay, one to your president, and that's to your vice president. So when you travel, so just put it on. If you want to actually come to the graduate office, we'll give you one when you travel. That's a great way to
That's
promote
wonderful.
our graduate students.
Another
Yes,
question.
you want one too?
Yes.
come down.
With the graduate school, is there any way that y'all would be interested in sponsoring a mentor program for graduate students?
Well, I think, the mentor program, the resolution was,
I wrote the resolution,
Right.
and if graduate council hasn't acted upon it, then it's...
and we sent the resolution to the provost office. Now, we need to materialize it. We need to work with GPSC, with, all of you. We need
Well,
to.
if I'm to be technical about it, by drafting the resolution and having graduate council vote on it, specifically the one regarding graduate student mentorship, it is now in graduate council's hands to make that actual, as that body has resolved to take action on the contents of the resolution. If it has not, then that is a different problem.
Yeah, I think we need to phone up.
Yeah, so.
Could you send me maybe you send me email because send me
So
email.
grad council, so it went to the research committee, and as a grad council representative, I'm on the research committee. And it's my understanding that we did everything that we needed to do with the research committee, I'm pretty sure. I mean, we read the resolutions, we added some things to it that, from the faculty perspective, that needed to be added. And that was one of the things that we did at the end of last session,
Yeah, the
like in
first
May.
day, yeah.
So I'm not sure where it's at now.
I think they should read it the second time. I don't think it's voted. If my memory is correct.
Well, I can email Dr. Leary and. find
Leary,
out.
yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll email him and find out.
We'll phone up, okay? Maybe you, you will sort of remember the exact.
have to go see Tomas again.
Yeah, absolutely, we need to phone up.
Okay.
Yeah, very important.
If there are no other questions for, actually, never mind.
Oh, okay, yes.
Actually, thank you very much for your speech. Well, I have two major concerns as a grad student. The first one, you were talking about conferences and the travel fund. When it says grad school will provide you $50 and you're attending department around $100, but we know that this money even doesn't cover the registration. And you know that these days conferences are every day, it's just like it's turning into business. Because what they want is just registration fees increasing. And for example, there's a conference in our area which is very famous. The registration fee is above $300. So if I want to attend this conference, which thousands of people in my area attend every year annually, and I know many schools that the grad schools cover up to $2,000 for each student when they want to attend. So this $300 is not really a big amount. However, for me as a grad students here, when they say, okay, you will receive maximum $150, then what's that motivation for me to really attend the conference? Which, as a doctorate students, that's really crucial and essential for all doctorate students to attend conferences for professional student professional development. This is first thing. The second thing, I'm not sure if this is pertinent to this meeting or not. However, as a grad student, especially if you are in a doctorate program, my major concern should be academia. My major concern should be research. My major concern should be professional development, because doctorate students are potential future faculty members. So if I don't have publication, if I don't have research, if I don't have professional development in my resume, how am I expected in the future I will be successful in the job hunting? So these are I believe these are everyday grad students basically challenges that they are facing, especially at SIU. Because first thing I will always worry about is, am I going to get a contract as a grad assistant? Because we know that grad students, the only external motivation, the only external, I would say, it's a kind of extrinsic motivation is, am I going to get something as a grad assistant? At the SIU, we know that students get 25% or 50%, but other schools, it's not like that. You get an assistantship or you don't. That's it. If you get an assistantship, you will get a full-time student's salary. You're international students, you're allowed to work 20 hours. You're not, it's up to you. You can work as many hours you want. For me as an international student, which I'm not allowed to work off campus, my biggest concern always is, am I going to get a contract or not? So for the entire summer, I was worried that am I going to get an entire spring semester. My major concern, instead of focusing on my dissertation, this is my third year in the grad school, was am I going to get a contract or not? And then by May, I was informed that you're going to get only 25%. Then the entire summer, when I was doing my internship, my major concern was, am I going to get another 25%? This is the life of doctorate students that really should be worried always about financial things. I'm not sure about other departments. I know in science and engineering, people do not really have that much problem. But me, as a student in curriculum development, in a college of business and education, we always challenge with this problem. My major concern is always, am I going to handle my life as a grad student, or should I just withdraw any day soon? Because we don't know. We don't have stability, financial stability, especially as international students, which sometimes money could be really a big issue for us. So right now, after a lot of stress and challenges during the summer, then I was informed, okay, you get extra 25% just for the fall. Now again, for the entire fall semester, my major concern is, am I going to get another 25% for schooling or not? If not, what should I do?
Okay.
So I do appreciate, sir, if you, as the dean of grad school, that you expect grad students to be a role model for our school. SIUC is a research school that focuses on publication and research. So who are a big part of this publication and research? Grad students. So as grad students, we need that support sometimes from administrators, because what I feel like now, I feel left alone. I feel there's no support for me. I feel there's nowhere I can go and ask, hey, I have this problem. I need some support from administrators.
Thank you very much.
We always get, but in action we don't. So I do appreciate, sir.
Sure. Thank you very much for your comments and also your opinions. I listened to you. And I was international students when I was at graduate school. And I understand it's not easy for international graduate students to learn, to do research without support. And absolutely, I can share your feeling. It's important to have a stable and consistent support. And honestly, in the state of Illinois, in the past 2 years, it was very, very difficult because state didn't give us budget. Enrollment was going down. So it was not easy. That's why graduate school cut by 25% just for assistantship. So that's I understand it's the pain and hardship which many of you, especially graduate students, international graduate students, experienced. That's number one. Number two, and I understand that, okay, yes, travel is important, and also the cost very expensive, very high. Okay, go to any conference sometimes cost about 2,000 or 3,000, or at least 1,500 or 1,000. Now, and my answer is that, okay, we can encourage. And I was a graduate student, and when I remember the first big conference I went to in New Orleans. That's almost 1988 or 89. You can figure out how old I am as I pray here, right? Because many of you were born. Okay. I remember, okay, I applied some money, a couple of hundred from the department, then get a couple of hundred from American Psychology Association, and then I took Greyhound. The bus, see what I mean? And try to stay in the cheap hotel, share with other graduate students. So, and it worked out. So my suggestion is that, okay, yes, it's not easy, and just do your best.
You're not seriously suggesting that graduate students start taking Greyhound to get to...
No, I'm not. But I'm saying my experience in the past. That's my experience, okay, in the 90s, late 80s, okay. It's not too bad to take, the long-distance bus. I'm not suggesting that you are going to do that. That's up to you, okay. That's not my point, okay. But my point is that, okay, not easy for a graduate student to do any presentation at any conference. That's my point, okay. And another thing is that, okay, for our graduate students, really we want you guys not just earn a degree, but also get a job to pay off. Remember, some of you, yes, you get a citizenship. Many of our grad students do not get anything, a citizenship. They have to pay their tuition. And that's why, especially those, professional programs, that's why we want all of you, let's say, to find a job. And that's the one thing which we want to work on. Look, let's say some degrees, make sure there is a job for you guys. If there are not many jobs, maybe we need to update our curriculum. And we may need to talk with those professors, those graduate directors, how to make your career more marketable. That's important. And if you get a degree, doesn't matter whatever degree, you cannot find either a teaching job or work in a company or government agency, that means something wrong. So the career is very important for all of us. So, and that's all what I just want to comment. I'm sure you talked too much. I didn't take all the notes, but I will be more than willing to set a meeting with you if you want. Just some concerns, and I will be glad to talk with you and do my best to help you, to support you professionally and also from graduate school. I can share with you what I can do, what I cannot do.
So Lauren will be the last comment because we have to get to Dr. Anderson and we have still a lot of meeting left to go.
If I could just say, I think that the mentoring issue probably would be helpful on this question if all of us had one person we could go to who would help us figure out the financial situation, figure out what resources we have. That would resolve a lot of our issues. The second reading, the resolution did pass in grad council, and the main concern was that faculty wouldn't get paid for this labor, but the issue becomes that no faculty is willing to do it because they don't get paid, but we're all paid, no matter, the most we can make is below poverty level. So we get faculty's not getting paid, but neither are we, and we're getting paid significantly less to the extent that we can't make ends meet. So we rely on funds, and we must take out a ton of debt. So if we could just, unless you're willing to say that every student that's in his situation can come to your office and you can figure it out, which would mean you would have almost the entire graduate student body coming to you for these issues, and unless you're willing to mentor all 3,000 of us.
Which is unlikely, yeah.
Yeah, and I know that you do what you can do. You are accessible to us, and we all really appreciate that. But if there's one thing I think that you could do to help solve this problem, it is to make sure that there is a graduate program a graduate mentoring program that's implemented as soon as possible. Because we can go to our people in our own departments, but in a lot of cases they're inaccessible to us, or they're not in the positions that we want. So for example, I want to be in admin one day. I don't have any administrators in my department, so I don't have a mentor who can say, here's the sort of things you might want to be able to do. So that's, I think, something, I don't know if we all agree on that, but I think quite a few of us would agree that if you could just get us a mentoring program, it would probably take a significant amount of work off of your table and also help us with a lot of these issues. So
I think the resolution will be very helpful once it's passed by our graduate council.
It's already been passed.
it was passed with 22 votes. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah, okay. It was passed. Okay, I'm sorry, I withdraw. Okay. What we need to do, we need to implement it. I think it'll pass in March or April. May. Okay, the last reading, the last May's meeting it was
So
passed.
on May 4th, the mentoring program did pass, so I have the resolution if...
Yeah, I think I have it. What we need to do, and we need to bring to the graduate council how to implement this by working with the department and also graduate school and the provost office. And it's important to get the new chancellor buy into it. And if the provost and new chancellor support it, that will make my job, our graduate school job, much easier. Because the provost and new chancellor can ask the dean to help me to work with them. Unless those deans will help us, and then they can direct the chairs and the faculty member to implement it. Otherwise, it will be there. I think it's very important. I understand that the faculty member, they will say no. We have to ask our faculty member to think about this. Look, we're here for students, and without students, no one will get paid as a faculty member. That's very simple. So, and we will work on that. We'll follow up. Okay, I think this is very important. I thank you very much for bringing to my attention again. We will follow up.
Thank you, Dean Lee.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Ken, or we can give Dean Lee. All right, Dr. Anderson, it's your show.
Thank you all. I promise I will be brief as I possibly can be. There are two parts to my presentation here, the part where I can do something for you and the part where you can do something for me. So let's start with the first. For those of you that have been here for a while, you'll know that about 4 years ago, SIU implemented a consistent final exam schedule, meaning that we use the same schedule every semester, year in, year out. As soon as that was implemented, we started to experience problems. Students started to experience problems that created problems for faculty as well, of students having lots of multiple exams. People seem to have a lot of exams on the same day, over and over and over again. We sought relief for that for the students in a variety of ways. The registrar's office didn't make changes because all the reports were anecdotal and there was just nothing quantitative we could point to. Over the summer, this last summer, 3 faculty, including myself, worked over the summer to produce a software program that allowed us to quantify the numbers of conflicts produced by various schedules, and to produce a tool that would enable us to optimize the final exam schedule. The piece of paper that I passed around at the beginning's got a bunch of bell curves on it. Okay. This is what we found. If you look at the 2 graphs in the middle of the page, they represent the spring and fall of 2016. There are 3 points that are labelled on it. Actual is what we did to students in that semester. And as you can see, they're pretty much worst case scenario in terms of the numbers of conflicts. You're on the extreme right of the bell curve. This semester we've tweaked the final exam schedule a little bit. If we use that schedule and apply it to that cohort of students, you see that's the current model. The optimal is what we can achieve. Okay, and based on that, we're recommending changes in the way that the final exams are scheduled. Because if you look at it, I mean, I don't want to get too colloquial, but it sucks. Okay, not to put too fine a point on it. We're doing it wrong, and so we want to change it. There are some nuances to this. If you put math and English on the same day, those are the 2 largest cohorts on campus, the Math Common Core exam, the English Common Core exam. You put them on the same day, no matter what else you do, that makes it worse by about 10% across the board. Even students that aren't in math and English get crowded into other places, and it messes everything up. What I would like to do is change the way that final exams are scheduled. We have introduced a resolution to the Faculty Senate to that effect, and what I'm here to do tonight is to ask you for your support, or if you are willing to give it, but to at least explain what we are trying to do. If you turn the paper over, I'll get to the resolution, the recommendation. Our current recommendation is that what we're doing is just stupid, and we should stop doing that. You would think that would be obvious, but it takes an act of God to make that happen. We are recommending that we abandon the current scheduling model and that we replace it with a randomized model which allows us to find the truly optimized schedule for a given cohort of students. There are pros and cons to that, and I'll as I go through each of these recommendations, I'll tell you the plus and the minus, because there are always pluses and minuses. On the plus side, we can cut the number of students who have 3 or more exams on the same day in half. Okay? The downside to it is that student schedules will not look anything like their schedule during the normal semester. Students have a certain amount of classes and they have a fixed schedule. The final exam schedule will be completely different. They'll have to get used to that. For that 1 week, they'll have to live with a different schedule. I'm not going to pretend I don't think that the benefits outweigh the costs, but there are costs and benefits. That's for you to decide. We're recommending that math and English should never be scheduled on the same day. Okay, that's, again, and what we're doing right now, we have them back to back, which is just boneheaded stupid, but Anyway, we're recommending that math and English should be separated. Now, the pros and cons of that, it reduces the time for students, for faculty to do grading by 1 day. To fix that, we've added extra days for faculty to get their grades in at the back end anyway. It used to be they had to be due in on Monday, now they're due in on Wednesday. That may affect some TAs. Okay, something you need to take into consideration. Okay. We are recommending a policy change. Right now, the university's policy with regard to exams is that if you have more than three exams on the same day, you can request accommodation. That is, you can request a special scheduling of your exams. The way that's handled is the student usually goes to a faculty member. The faculty member approaches the associate dean or the dean of the college concerned, and inevitably the result is the dean says, "Can you sort that out?" And we do. Okay, that's how it's done. There is a time scheduled for make-up exams. It's on Friday evening. Traditionally, over the last 4 years, the single busiest day for conflicts was Friday. So if you had 3 or more exams on Friday, you got to do a make-up exam on Friday. Good luck to you. Okay? We're trying to change that. We are now recommending that the policy be changed that if you have 3 exams back to back to back, you can request accommodation. The randomized schedule almost eliminates 4 exams. It doesn't quite, okay? But it almost eliminates, gets them down to numbers you could count on your fingers, okay? But we're recommending this change in policy. 3 exams back to back, not 3 exams in the same day. So, there is no schedule that eliminates 3 exams in the same day. It just can't be done. It doesn't exist. But 3 exams back to back to back, we're saying students can't do well under those circumstances. Give them a break. Finally, there are 2 ways that we can schedule the final exam. Okay? Ideally, you do it with the cohort of students you're dealing with. That is, whoever's registered this semester. You work with that data, you look at their schedules, you optimize based on that data. That gives you the best possible result. Okay? The downside of that is that for some strange reason, students don't get their schedules sorted out until about 2 weeks into the semester, which means we can't begin this process until after 2 weeks, which means the final exam schedule won't be set until about week 4. Okay, give or take a few days, but about week 4. That means you won't know your final exam schedule when you register. Okay? For some students who have to travel, for example, that can be problematic. Okay? The alternative is to say, okay, you know, schedules don't change all that much from spring to spring or fall to fall, the types of classes that are offered. Yeah, they vary a little bit from year to year, but not a whole lot. So maybe we could use last year's cohort as a model and apply that to this year's cohort. We can do that. If we do that, we can get the schedule worked out 11 months in advance. Okay? Everyone can know when they register what the final exam schedule will be. The disadvantage of that is it will increase conflicts across the board by about 10%. Okay, so about 10% more students will have 3 or more exams on the same day if we do that, because there is enough variation from semester to semester that it has that effect. And we've studied this a lot to try and figure out how to get around that, and it just isn't the way. It's just the way the statistics work. So what my colleagues and I are trying to do is implement these recommendations. Okay? That's what we're trying to do for you. This will affect undergraduate students more than it affects graduate students, but it will affect graduate students as well. What I would appreciate from you is if you could discuss this amongst yourselves and tell us where you stand on this, either a resolution or a letter or whatever form you choose to do, it doesn't matter. If you can give us some kind of indication of where you stand on this, we will append that to the resolution that we bring to the Faculty Senate when this is voted on to say where the graduate students stand on this. Earlier this evening I spoke to the undergraduate student government. I've asked them for the same thing. We'll get their responses. That we'll weigh all that information in as we take this forward, and hopefully we'll fix this.
I have a question.
Sure.
So, I'm a law student, and I know that several of us that are law students are not privy to how graduate students choose their classes. But for instance, in law school, we are given the schedule of classes, what's going to be offered for the next semester. We're also given an exam schedule. So it means that, for instance, I chose all of my classes based on when the exams are, because it is nearly impossible to have an accommodation for conflict of an exam for a law student. Especially if there was like 4 that conflict, that would be almost impossible. And the ABA, American Bar Association, has very, very strict rules. Well, what you're talking about, it seems to me, is a little bit different. It's campus-wide, but are the graduate students, are they given notice of when their exams will be given for each class that they're going to choose, or no?
If, in the 2 models of how we do it, the answer is yes for one and no for the other.
Okay.
All students will know when their finals exams are scheduled. If we optimize for the current cohort, they won't know that until about week 4 of the semester, so they will not know it when they register. If we use the previous semester's cohort of students to optimize, you will know it when you register. It'll be worked out, more than a semester in advance. But the disadvantage of that is more students will have conflicts. Now,
They'll have, more students will have conflicts if they know in advance when their exams
yes,
are?
yes. Because you can't optimize based on, what we found is you can't optimize the schedule based on any other cohort. You've got to optimize it for the current cohort. You can get an approximation, but it's always about 10% off. Now, I will say this, you guys would know this better than I do because I'm not in the law school. I have a feeling the law school writes its own exam schedule. They don't follow the university. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
why we don't know
Yeah,
how
that-
you all do it.
Yeah, and this wouldn't affect the law school, but this would affect all the other colleges.
Right, and so we have to be within the standards of the American Bar Association standards
Mhm.
for giving those exams, so that's why the law school writes
Does it
their
that way?
own exam schedule.
Yeah. This is why I'm trying to be perfectly honest with you. There are pros and cons to all of these approaches. I don't know many undergraduates who pick classes based on their final exam schedule. It's just not how most undergraduates roll. I may be wrong, but I've never heard that. The bigger issue for undergraduates is travel. If they want to book a flight or something like that, they want to book it as far in advance as they can to get the best prices. It's really a question of where the balance of benefit lies. Do we want to have 10% more students facing 3 exams in the same day, or do we want to give students the chance to book their flights 4 weeks earlier? And I'm not taking a position on what you should take, I'm just laying out those are your options.
When are you presenting this for voting at the Faculty Senate?
It'll probably be at the next Faculty Senate meeting, which I believe is October 19th.
Yeah. That'll be good.
Yeah, because that gives us time.
So October the 19th is actually 2 days after our first GPSC or second GPSC meeting in October, because that's on the 17th. So theoretically, we could have a resolution done and submitted to you by then, assuming we come to a conclusion on which of these options that we want. Point blank, since I sat on the final exam committee, and still do, and sat for this presentation earlier, one of the things
You got
that...
the long version.
Yeah, I did get the long version. One of the things that I just point blank would recommend is this English and math thing has to go. Of the recommendations, if we decide on nothing else, that one is the one that we have to decide on, particularly insofar as we have graduate students and the folks grading those exams have additional time to do them. It is inhumane, and we all know how I feel about inhumane policies. It is inhumane to ask undergraduate students to bear that kind of a burden. That, and I'm fairly certain that folks in the English department have essays to write. If they have to grade if they have to proctor examinations all at the same time, it's going to be rough. But aside from that, questions for...
Okay. A few other questions from the board. Do you want to go ahead and respond? Oh, yes, you,
Okay.
sorry.
Well, I just wonder why a third option wasn't considered. I came from Western Illinois University before this, and I knew my final schedule every single semester because it was the exact same. If I had a class at Monday at 9 a.m., I knew when I signed up my final would be Wednesday at 8 a.m. If I signed up for a Tuesday class that starts at 8:30, then I knew that my final would be at 9 a.m., would be at 8 a.m. on Thursday. Friday was the makeup day. The scheduling here is absolutely bizarre, and in my 5 years as a graduate student here, I have not figured out what kind of broken logic made up this stupid schedule.
Well, I can explain that, and I'll apologize for it, but I can explain it. What you described is what we have now. Right now, we have a fixed schedule. And for the last 4 years, it's been that. So you could have looked up the exam schedule for spring 4 years ago or fall 4 years ago and known that that's going to be the same schedule now. So it's been fixed. The logic behind the current scheduling was to try and schedule exams as close as possible to the times at which the classes sat. So if you had a Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 11 class, then your exam schedule was going to be on a Monday, Wednesday or Friday as close to 11 as it could possibly be. It doesn't work completely well because the exam slots are 2 hours and the lectures are 1 or 1.5, but that was the logic behind it. The
But
problem
I
is...
still had people that, in my department, that got out of final at 9:30 on a night and had to come back the next morning at 7:30 for another class, and that's for graduate students.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to defend the current schedule. I've been one of those that's been fighting it. Every semester, I teach 2 large classes, one on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 11, the other Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 1. And I typically have 120 or so students between those 2 classes. Every semester for the last 4 years, I've had a dozen or 15 students come and say, I've got 4 exams on Friday. And okay, I help them. We schedule special makeups or whatever, and it's a nightmare for them, it's a nightmare for faculty. I've been trying to change this for 4 years. It wasn't until we could quantify this that we could get the attention of the registrar's office. Up till now, they've just blown us off.
This isn't actually a question for the council. I think we can sit on this. We have another meeting in 2 weeks. We can discuss then, but we're already an hour into our meeting, so if we can move along on the agenda. If there are no more questions for the professor, he won't be here, but other than that.
There's another question on the floor.
I have one quick question, which is, with the second way of calculating the optimal schedule, or it's based on previous semesters,
Yep.
would the dates of the finals be released to, or would the schedule for when exams would be released at the same time that students can begin registering for
Oh, yes.
classes?
Oh, yeah,
And if
way in
so-
advance.
And if so, is there any, has it been thought about how that might affect student registration choices?
Yes, we've thought about it. No, I can't tell you what it would do because we've got no way to have that information. If you look at these bell curves, they're not symmetric. And the reason they're not symmetric is students do choose classes non-randomly. Okay, they pick certain times preferentially. And students do deliberately pick classes not based on their final exams, they pick classes based on giving themselves a break between one class and the next. So if they've got a 10 o'clock, they don't look at an 11 o'clock slot, they look at a 12 o'clock slot. So the short answer to your question is, yeah, if we go with the second option, students will know long before they start registering. By this time, almost a year in advance, 11 months in advance, we'll know what the schedule will be for the following semester, the following fall. Okay.
And could situations where students are taking 3 exams in a single day be minimized below 10% through kind of like guided counseling as they're registering for classes?
I don't know the answer to that question. Potentially, how well that would work, I just don't have an answer.
Any other questions for Dr. Anderson? All right, well, Dr. Anderson will give me an electronic copy of the hold your applause. We'll give you an electronic copy of the handout, which will be posted on the GPSC website along with Dean Lee's presentation, and we will proceed from there.
Yeah, and if anyone has questions or anything, feel free to contact me. I'm happy to answer.
All right, so let's thank Dr. Anderson.
Thank you for making time for me. I know you've got a busy schedule.
All right, finally, we can actually get to like old business.
Yes. You know what, may I also recommend that if you have not been able to get something to eat, if you just need to move around, walk out this
Go
door,
food.
that door, grab some food. There's also water back there, so if you're feeling kind of hot, please feel free. I'm not going to be offended if you stand up while I'm talking. No big deal.
That's true.
So moving on to old business.
I got this.
You got this? All right, so if you
All
would
right, well,
pass.
you pass that around. I'll do some reading.
Yeah, I'm passing this around, and that's for the campus-wide committees. So if you haven't signed up yet, please consider serving on a committee. If you need more information, that was sent on the last email that gave a little bit more information about each committee. But I'm also happy to resend that to you. So if you need to, when I send this around, this is just to sign up to say that you're here today. Just put a star next to your name, and I'll send that information to you.
Okay, so committees. I'm going to start sounding like Brandon, which is a thing that I tend to try to avoid. But we need to fill these positions, right? So GPSC, and I'm not even going to quote the policy at you guys. One of the ways that we engage in our representative function is through committee work. If there's no graduate students on committees, you can really bet that there are no students, period, on those committees, considering that USG now has, 9 senators? We have 33. We have 48 committee requirements. If we subtract the 5 that I'm required to sit on, yes, 5, we're down to 43 committees that we have to fill. And I say have to fill because if we don't fill them, the administration is just going to make the decisions without us and say, well, you blew your shot. So we need to fill these committees. If you haven't signed up for one, please do. After this meeting, I'm just going to send the committee list out to the graduate student population in general and start appointing people who volunteer. Second note on that, they did not give me a limitation on appointments. So if more than one person wants to do a committee, I'm sending you both. And they can just tell me no. Because at this point, student representation is really important, particularly because we have a new chancellor. That being said, I'm going to make a plea for 5 committees, the HLC reaccreditation committees, and you guys are going to have to sit through my lecture. So, I want to make a point to emphasize the need for student participations on the 5 HLC subcommittees. These subcommittees are responsible for the development and implementation of assessment vehicles to determine whether the university is meeting the HLC criteria ahead of the HLC site visit. Usually, each subcommittee generates a report that is compiled into a large document that is provided to the HLC ahead of time. The last report, done in 2010, the 440-page Southern at 140, can be found on the HLC accreditation website. I've read every page of it. It sucks. And I'm going to go into that in a second. It's worth noting that there was little student involvement with the collection of data or the report itself in the last self-study cycle, which led to the omission of student concern from the report itself. See aforementioned comment. Moreover, the Southern at 140 document is a sanitized document. It minimizes or eliminates any reports that might damage the image of the institution. As an example, the report omits the following finding from the 2008 climate survey conducted as part of the self-study. And I quote at length, examining responses to individual items in this subscale, see Table 4. I will post the report itself on the GPSC website because they cannot stop me. Shows that even AP staff and students tended not to agree that they have an effective voice in the governance of the university and that they were appropriately involved in university decision making. Some may feel that their elected constituency representatives or representative bodies are not able to adequately influence university decision-making, or they may feel that their own concerns are not adequately represented by these elected bodies. So this was left all the way out of that 440-page report because we had no students on the subcommittee that generated the vehicle to do this assessment and subsequently develop the report that would go into the larger document. We need students on these 5 subcommittees. So we as student representatives have a responsibility to paint an accurate picture of the institution, even if that picture is not as rosy as the administration would like. Moreover, the HLC reaccreditation process is an opportunity to make clear the difficulties faced by graduate and professional students at this institution, many of which were aired today, and to preserve them in institutional memory moving forward. Additionally, the failure to provide student participation in the HLC reaccreditation process would subsequently rob students of the ability to provide meaningful feedback to our accrediting body about the disposition of students on this campus. So that being said, I need volunteers for this committee by September 25th, because that's when the next HLC Accreditation Steering Committee, one of the 5 committees that I am forced to sit on, meets. And without the names of the student reps to those committees, I have literally done a crap ton of work for no benefit, and that's just more excuse for them to keep us off additional committees. So which of you want to do this job? All right, Lauren.
Can I tell you which one I want? Are you talking about the steering or the separate ones underneath it?
The separate ones, the subcommittees. I get stuck with the steering committee because I'm a constituency head. If we want an additional rep, you can just show up with me and let them try to throw you out.
Well, I'll take one of the subcommittees.
Okay. Anyone else?
They can also throw me out.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, there is a sheet going around, so if you want to write your name underneath one of those, it's going to be coming towards you. So when you see that, just make sure you sign it under that committee.
If more than one of you wants to do a subcommittee, I'm just going to send, again, both of you, or as many of you sign up for whichever subcommittee, and then let them tell me no.
2 questions.
Yeah.
One, do we know the dates? Just when these committees meet, I've got an insanely tight schedule with second year law school. Third, second, it's messing with me, law school. I know quite a few law students who want to get involved with things, even with GPSC. And I know you said you're sending this out to the general population soon. Can I just give that information to them ahead of time?
Go ahead, you've got it.
Yeah.
You're their rep.
All right.
Oh, well, you're not their rep. You're a grad council rep, but you're still a student in the law school, so you can distribute it in the absence of
And
your...
just have them shoot an email to...
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's also the recommendation for everyone in the room. If you know someone amongst your colleagues that would be interested in serving on any of these committees, please inform them. You were sent a list of those remaining committees in the last email. So, if you don't see that marked by the end of this meeting, please feel free to forward that to your own constituents.
And they would be representing us still, even though just through the grad,
Yes.
okay, grad school. So.
Yep. Again, I will remind you that if more than one of you wants to go to a committee meeting, I'm going to send you both, and then they can tell me no. If they fail to tell me no, then I'm just going to keep sending both of you. It's on them to limit our representation. It's not on us. So even if somebody else has signed up for a committee you want, I'm just going to send you both.
And we don't know how often these meet yet.
The HLC subcommittees have not set their schedule because they did not meet at their scheduled time over the summer. They did not meet this fall, and I think they're sitting on their hands until the 25th because they have no direction from the chancellor, like many committees on campus. To be fair, a lot of these committees meet on an at-will basis or on an at-needed basis, or receive their charges from the chancellor until the chancellor indicates the disposition of said committees. A lot of them are in limbo, and they're seeking representatives. Actually, they're mostly seeking representatives because I bugged them over the summer, but that's neither here nor there. They're seeking representatives so that they have an active body of members that they can call upon when they actually start doing the work. Questions about that?
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
If you're asking someone to be on a committee, can we make sure that we're not just asking people who want CV lines who actually care about the thing that's happening, and go to the people who just want CV lines last? Would be
Fair enough.
beneficial.
We do expect for anybody who's
Right.
serving to give a small report prior to this meeting, or if there's something that comes up. I mean, just to give us feedback in here, I'll tell you about things that are happening with the non-traditional students, if there's something to report.
It's actually item D on your agenda, way after my report. If there are no questions about that old business, we can move on to B, the Town Hall invitation to Chancellor Montemagno. Okay, so the Town Hall invitation, Last meeting, I recommended that we invite Chancellor Montemagno to a town hall style open forum co-hosted with USG. Initially, it was suggested the 21st. Clearly, that's not happening. However, the Chancellor has opted to delay a majority of his meetings with constituency groups until after his State of the University address, September 26th. That said, the Chancellor's office has provided me with the following dates for consideration for the joint town hall. To simplify this, there are 4 dates. Only one of them falls on a GPSC meeting day. The other 3 are a Monday, a Wednesday, and another Monday. All of them at 7:30. Do we just want to kick out the 3 non-GPSC meeting dates and go with the GPSC time? Can I get an informal poll on that? So all in favor? All opposed? All right, sweet. So Tuesday, October 17th at 7:30 p.m. will be the, yeah, I know, it's
It's my birthday, thanks.
I'm sorry. Oh my God. Oh no. I will give you the first question if you want. Tuesday, October 17th at 7:30 p.m. will be the date that I recommend to the Chancellor. And I want to be clear about this. While this is billed as a joint USG GPSC thing, if USG fails to uphold their end of the bargain or chooses a different date, we're just going to go with ours.
Sounds good.
All right. We on the new business now?
Yeah, new business.
Jesus Christ. It's still me. The DACA information page. If you have not visited the GPSC website recently, you might not have noticed the new DACA information page that went live last week. This page contains information from the Department of Homeland Security, the Dean of Students, and provides links that should be helpful to any students seeking information concerning DACA. I have recently received a list of scholarships available to graduate and undergraduate undocumented students, which I am in the process of verifying. Some of them might not be applicable to this institution. As soon as I have verified the accuracy of the list, I will recommend that we post it on our website under the DACA information page. Also, as an aside, in distributing the link and information to the DACA students and their affiliated community, it has been described, and I quote, as exactly what we would hope the administration would have done for us, and I quote again, better than anything we got from the school. So there's that. Now I no longer have to talk.
Okay, actually, I'm going to ask about another new business that was, if that's okay, I can actually just hold it. It's fine. It was about getting better representation with the DE, and we're asking for a column.
Oh, I
Got
talked
it.
to them about that. They
All right.
said yes.
All right, so that's new business. We now will have, GPSC will have a column on the Daily Egyptian, so
Monthly column.
monthly column. Hooray. All right, so next it's Clay.
You got anything, Clay?
Yeah, just a few things from Grad Council. Did pass a resolution to create a post-bachelor certificate for special education and college education and human services. And then, yeah, 100%, just going back to the bit about the mentorship, yeah, that was passed last May, 100%. So I'll continue to follow up with that. I have a meeting later this week. We'll be able to bring that up. So that should be fun. Yeah.
So in that resolution, it does say junior faculty, so I'm law school, I don't know what all the graduate students do, but you need to just clarify if you are defined as junior faculty or some other umbrella of faculty.
Blended. Yeah. It sounds like there's a ton of confusion on exactly what should come out of that resolution being passed.
Right.
And
The primary was that it is faculty and like, as in, like you are hired on here to teach.
Yeah.
Not necessarily you're a graduate student and you do teach. But I know that we had previously had this discussion of how grad students, also all of you that teach classes, if you're defined as faculty or not, depending on who you're talking to. So I think that that's going to be your biggest step there, and if not, then I know this is very important to Lauren, and I think that we could have a similar resolution graduate students to have a mentoring program based on the original resolution.
A little bit about grad college. We've got enrollment figures that came out. Enrollment's down 7% from last year for graduate professional students. Interesting tidbit of information with that. Indiana saw a 60% increase in graduate enrollment of Illinois residents. Was thrown in there. Actually, this relates to what we heard from Dean Lee on the strategic plan for the graduate college. The grad college has been decreasing the number of undecided applications in cooperation with programs. Essentially, those are graduate students that apply to come to the university and then don't get any kind of decision, like no rejection, no exception, just they don't get anything. It's apparently been a problem that is ongoing, and they're actually getting rid of those, which is good. Let's see. So this is important. So some bigger announcements. Right, we currently don't have a provost. It is being split between the two associate provosts for that unit. There is not going to be a search, or there is currently no plan for a search for a provost until the spring 2018. So basically, there won't be any plan as things currently stand to begin a search to replace the vacancy for a provost until next semester. For the Associate Chancellor for Diversity, there's vacancy, a tentatively, potentially late fall, beginning the search for that. And the university has hired a firm to conduct a national search for enrollment management, specifically a head to the enrollment management. Right now there isn't someone necessarily filling that position, and rather than hiring someone in, they've hired a firm to help find someone to fill that position. Then the last bit were notes on the Chancellor's comments throughout, both for the report from the Chancellor as well as a few things that are just littered throughout the meeting at Grad Council a couple weeks ago. Generally, Chancellor continues to articulate a message saying that we're going to continue as a comprehensive research university, emphasizing the notion of using faculty, admins, basically anybody in a leadership position to actually achieve the sort of vision that we want to establish for the university going forward, and also the notion that in working towards that vision, the implementation and execution of the changes to work towards that vision are going to be occurring rapidly and in somewhat of an atypical fashion for a higher education institution. So, in a general sense, what seems to be the approach for the Chancellor in the execution of all of strategic plans, whatever vision that is being developed, the approach more or less seems to be asking for data, and then the actual process of developing whatever plan is being developed happening within the Chancellor's office and whatever parties are being included in that, and isn't necessarily something that is being discussed in any amount of detail in open meetings, at least that I've been party to. So in a sense, there's a great deal of explanation to the fact of, I can even do some direct quotes here, coming 3 weeks are going to have a lot of activity, working on defining who we are and what we do. Things are going to, not necessarily a quote, this is just paraphrasing, things are going to happen at a pace not typical for an academic institution. Can't go forward with the way things are. It's going to be a fast process. It's time for us to move. Definitely something in the sense of talking about the representatives to Graduate Council, which are faculty across the university, as well as our representation there, representative from Faculty Senate, and the notion of these are going to be leaders that are sort of directing how we implement the change to accomplish the goals that are set by the new vision, but not necessarily a lot of articulation on what it is that vision is and exactly how we're going to be implementing any of it, executing any of it. So, going forward, I think that's an area that we'll need to address. That's pretty much all I have from Grad Council. Does anybody have any questions to follow up on.
I'll have more on Montemagno in my report.
All right.
And then my last piece is still looking for anybody that's interested in participating in the diversity and inclusivity committee that we operate. I'm looking to hold a meeting for that by the month's end. So if you're interested, please reach out and we can get you scheduled in for that meeting. That would be great. I believe that's all my points.
All right. So next, I'm just going to move forward with my points. If you're just pass this around, I'm going to take one for myself. Psych. There you go. Okay, so what you have in front of you, since I didn't have this last time, is just an outline of our projected budget report for the fiscal year of 2017 to 2018. This is in comparison to the previous projected report at the beginning of last fall. So this is just a basic breakdown. You can go ahead and see that. We are, as I mentioned, being distributed funds on a monthly basis based on enrollment. And so we have now received about $23,000 in the month of September, and we'll see our next big mass in October. So it does definitely affect a little bit of how we budget things. But as far as the overall potential budget of what I was told is $6,700 and $500 and just a bit over. Typically for our salaries, we do allocate $29,000. You'll note that there's a negative $10,875 to that. That's because both myself and Clay declined our opportunity to work on the summer positions, so that then went back to event funding as well as travel funding. But more importantly, our proud leader, John, had the opportunity to do a 50% contract and actually decided to do a 20% contract so that that could be reallocated into event funding and into travel funding. So certainly you'll see the difference in numbers there, and that's because particularly John's consideration and donation pretty much.
Thank you for both of you. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yay, John! You rock star! You rock star, John! Make sure the mic got that. And so then just the basic breakdown. So you'll see that this year we do have $19,000 originating budget for traveling, and then event funding would be $11,625. And the rest are fairly standard as far as their office expenses. We do and will still be offering $5,000 in research awards at the end of the spring semester. One budget line that's not in here is that we've also added one for just a graduate and graduate group support, and that's of $1,000. So that's not currently, that's the one I forgot to put in. So that's for you. It's pretty quickly run down. So today the fee allocation board met for the first time this academic year. We met with two RSOs and organization. The first organization was the Zoology Graduate Student Association. They were telling us and explaining to us about their 2017 and 2018 Life Sciences Seminar Series. So this series will be taking place on November 2nd, and they will be having a total of 8 speakers who will be coming to SIU that will be speaking on zoology, and then 4 on plant biology. And so the original request was for $3,964. It was recommended by the FAB committee that we give them $1,700. So now I bring this to the floor. Do I have a motion to give the Zoology and Graduate Student Association $1,700? So I hear a second.
All in favor?
All in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Okay. Any
Abstentions?
right.
I have 2
So-
abstentions.
One opposed, one abstention. All right, so that passes. I will be contacting.
Okay.
What's that?
Keep going.
Oh, I will be contacting them and let them know of our general body's decision. The next one was the Student Communication Organization. They are presenting to us Kaleidoscope. It's a graduate journal of qualitative communication research. This is something that we've also supported in past years, as well as the other Zoology and Graduate Student Association. So this is something we've supported the last couple of years. This actually would be pulled not from our event funding, but from our graduate student support group line. They requested for this publication, I'm happy to tell you more about it, $1,500. Our fee allocation board has decided to offer them $900. I'm going to bring a motion to the floor that we offer the Student Communication Organization for Kaleidoscope $900 from our
group support line. Second from the floor. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right.
Opposed?
Opposed? All right, so that passes. All right, well then I'll go ahead and be contacting them as well. And that is that for me, other than now with those different allocations, that leaves a total allocation to of our event funding from, it will decrease for $1,700. And also we've now allocated $900 towards traveling funding. And just a reminder to also everyone in the room and to remind those who you report back to remind them to go ahead and now that we have John's generous donation, we certainly have a lot more room for travel funding. Remember that if you're just presenting at a conference, it's $150. If you're just attending a conference, it's $75. That's $150 does max out for the academic year. So once you have that, that's all the funding that you will be able to receive for travel funding from GPSC. All right, that's it for me.
Okie dokie. So before I begin, one of the things that I want to note is theoretically, Clay, Diana, and I are administrators, at least by the terms of what we have to do. I am the only administrator on this campus that has taken a pay cut, and I'm a student. So I want you guys to consider that for a moment. I am the only administrator who took a pay cut on this campus. In fact, the last administrator we had, Brad Caldwell, got a raise, as did Matt Baumann, who is now Chief of Staff in the Chancellor's office, as did both Provost Dalala and Chevalier. I'll let you guys sit with that for a little bit. Okay, so moving on to my report. Lord help us. So I attended the 9/14 Board of Trustees meeting, the audio recording of which is up on the Board of Trustees website. To that end, I'm going to confine all of my comments to Chancellor Montemagno's first presentation to the Board of Trustees. So if you were present for Chancellor Montemagno's open forum during his on-campus interview, then you have some understanding of what the new Chancellor said to the Board of Trustees. Broadly speaking, the Chancellor is starting with a blank slate, which is to say that the Chancellor intends to wipe the slate clear and build from the ground up. What this is translated to on the ground is a fair amount of instability where previous initiatives are concerned as the Chancellor begins to reconsider the direction of the institution. So one of the things that the Chancellor is pretty big about is this notion of community, specifically stating what SIU is generating success through community. Moreover, where the success is concerned, Chancellor Montemagno stated the end result is that you had this synergy that allows us to be far greater, far better than we were as individuals, and I think that is the core element that distinguishes SIUC. So I'm actually going to pause here and skip all of that part of my report to get to the portion about students, because really this is not much that you have not heard. If you want to hear the complete unedited version of Chancellor Montemagno's comments, the minutes are on the Board of Trustees meeting, and I will post them on the GPSC website so you can hear it directly from the horse's mouth. So aside from touting SIUC's successes, like yet another Higher Education Excellence in Diversity Award, and that we've been named as one of the top 100 safest colleges in the country, Chancellor Montemagno addressed specifically the survey he distributed earlier this month. To be clear, the survey was distributed to, and I quote, faculty, staff, students, alumni in the surrounding community. This is a population that by conservative estimates well exceeds the 3,000 responses that the survey got. To be clear, if all of those responses came from students, that would only amount to 1/4 of the total student body. Unfortunately for the Chancellor, they didn't all come from students. Of these 3,000 responses, the Chancellor reports that he is, and I quote again, happy to say that the responses was overwhelming. 80% of respondents all reaffirmed our mission statement, which is to say that 20% did not agree with our mission in some context. Additionally, where diversity is concerned, 80% of the respondents indicated that they, quote, want an institution that retains those firm roots of 1876, of being a place of inclusion, diversity, and opportunity, the place where you can come and grab onto the brass ring of opportunity, hold on to it, and graduate to go on to a successful life. To be clear, the 1876 reference is to the graduation of Alexander Lane, the first black male to graduate from SIUC. Where students were concerned, the Chancellor has the following to say, and I quote, "We need to make sure that we keep students at the core of everything we do. We need to understand that the students help define our identity and what the future holds. So as we look at envisioning the future of the campus, we need to look at engaging students in subject matter and campus life. Here it's clear that the Chancellor is not talking about shared governance, despite the authority granted by university policy to student constituency bodies. The Chancellor's address later clarified that students need to be engaged in their own education, that education is a comprehensive immersive experience that all students should be involved in. As such, it appears to be the Chancellor's view that student involvement should be limited to the provision of input on how well we are being taught and the quality of education, and not necessarily the administration of the institution. This much I take to be clear by his directive that all issues that emerge from GPSC should be directed to the Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs as opposed to his office." To be clear, I have complete faith in Vice Chancellor Stetler and the Dean of Students, Jennifer Jones Hall, will do their best to address concerns directed their way. Their help with the provision of the university resources for DACA students and their willingness to engage in frank dialogue for the benefit of the students has been an asset in this time of transition. To this end, my concern with the Chancellor's directive relates specifically to his intentions where student constituency groups are concerned, specifically his belief that, quote, "shared governance is power." If I am to interpret the Chancellor's actions in this context, it does not appear that he wishes to have student participation in that power. So to conclude, the Chancellor stated that he would reveal his intentions for the university at his September 26th State of the University address, which will take place at 10 a.m. in the ballrooms. I encourage all of you to attend the address, and I will post the time and date on the GPSC website. If only to hear directly from the Chancellor his plans for the institution. Additionally, he did indicate that a final part of the plan would be revealed at the first constituency heads meeting on October the 6th.
Point of information, it's actually at Trap, not Ballrooms.
Really? It's in Shroud? Okay.
It's at 10 a.m.
Okay.
on Tuesday.
Wow.
It's in Trap.
And he guy literally transcribed this from the thing on the. I guess he misspoke. Okay, thank you for that. So there are a couple of things that came out that came up there. One of the things about GPSC is our authority is granted to participation in institutional planning, et cetera, and student opinion under Board of Trustees policies, right? There's nothing that says the Chancellor has to go out and solicit that participation from us. There's an implication there, but so my view is if the Chancellor wants, or if we are required by policy to provide information in these things, then we should take seriously that responsibility using whatever mechanisms we have available to us. So to this end, I think, Clay, we should co-opt Dean Lee's graduate satisfaction survey to do a comprehensive kind of report on graduate student perceptions of their own education and their own experience in graduate school at this institution. We have actually the resources to do such a thing beyond the resources we committed to the student activity fee survey, which I think we should include in said report. But this is going to take a lot of work. And it's going to take a lot of these meetings, or a lot of meetings like this one and a lot of meetings outside of this one to get it done. And it's a lot to ask of us, but given that the Chancellor has apparently evidenced a willingness to limit our participation only to the provision of information through select channels, I think it's incumbent upon us to take every opportunity we have, use every bit of our institutional authority to basically say, this is how we experience our education, our institution, these are the things that need to change, and these are our recommendations for it. And this is a matter I intend to bring up with the executive committee to develop into something that can be actionable, but we do have templates for the kind of investigatory work that I'm suggesting. Questions for me before I get to the status of our searches? Yes?
I don't actually have it's not a question, but just for the benefit of the council, Dr. Montemanio, he's been previous military, Navy, I think he served in, and he's made it very clear, I know at least to the deans, that he believes in chain of command, and he doesn't even want to hear from the deans of the colleges, because the deans report to the assistant provost, and the assistant provost reports to the chancellor. So he's being very consistent in how he's approaching the campus, but just for everyone's information.
And while I would agree with that up to a point, were it not for our policy given responsibility. So to put it another way, while I recognize that he is following the chain of command, if he's to maintain that consistency, one of the things he should be doing is consulting with us on this massive change that's coming about. That is essentially what the student constituency group policy exists for, to ensure that our input is taken in administrative planning and other such things. So I take the point, and that's actually not, I take the point.
Just how he's doing things, whether it's
Yeah.
right or wrong.
Other questions about Montemagno?
I have a question about the survey.
Yeah.
If we go through with the survey, does he have control of those results?
No. Specifically, even if we employ the use of ARC, he doesn't have authority except to FOIA those results. They would come to us. Other question? Okay, searches, which, God help us. The Associate Chancellor for Institutional Diversity. So, as Clay said, there's some interesting things going on with that. I reached out to Chief of Staff Matt Bauman concerning the disposition of the Associate Chancellor for Institutional Diversity search, and he basically stated to me that the Chancellor was still considering the direction he wished to go with the search, and that we would likely see some action on it during the latter half of the semester. Which is interesting because the committee anticipated actually restarting the search at the beginning of the semester so that we could get the ad out, get folks on campus for interviews, and then start the appointment process in spring so that the person we brought in could come to learn the campus as the chancellor was and align themselves with the chancellor's direction. This is going to become increasingly difficult the later it takes for us to do this. Second thing, coordinator for diversity and inclusivity at the graduate school. So as many of you are aware, GPSC together with the graduate school collaborated on the proposal of a coordinator for diversity and inclusivity at the graduate school, which would oversee underrepresented recruitment, retention, and many of the funding mechanisms provided by the graduate school for underrepresented populations, including the prompt graduate deans, REACH, and DFI awards. That search has been canceled. To this point, I quote at length from Associate Provost Dave Delala's email. So this search began prior to a period of significant transition at the university. Please know that this does not reflect lack of commitment to recruiting, supporting, and retaining graduate students who bring diversity to our campus. That is a core part of our institutional identity, mission, and priorities. This mission is campus-wide, one that is a shared responsibility and not one held by a single individual or office. Accordingly, we wish to carefully consider the most effective approach for enhancing our success in recruiting and supporting students from diverse backgrounds towards completion of their graduate degree. This concludes my report on the status of our searches. Are there any questions about that? Yes.
This might be out of our purview, but are there search committees for deans of graduate schools? Is there going to be one happening pretty soon with our school?
For the School of Law?
Yes.
Yes. Matt Bauman actually brought this up with me. He said that the law school has its own internal processes for a dean search, and in as much as they can align those internal processes with student constituency group participation, they will. They did not give me a timetable. Or Matt did not give me a timetable. Other questions about searches? Okay.
So once again, looking for GPSC representatives. If you've signed up for the HLC, if you can see me afterwards, I just wanted to let you know what each different subcommittee focuses on. So that way you can decide if you sign up for one subcommittee and you would prefer working with another, I'm happy to inform you of that. If you have more questions, feel free to email myself or Jonathan or just the GPSC email, and we can tell you about some of the available positions that we still have. These will be sent out after this meeting to our open constituents to see who is interested in volunteering. I do encourage you to ask your own department colleagues if they are interested first. You now know what's available, and just contact us by the end of the week so we can go ahead and fill that position with them. Any other reports from committees from the floor currently? Anybody that needs to report anything?
Is the culture of respect, does that count as one?
No, that's an initiative that we had to send people to,
Okay.
unless there's something you need the body to take action on.
No.
All right.
I don't know, do I? Does that email, do I need the body to
Oh
take
no, we
action
need
on
to
that?
talk about that as an executive committee.
Okay.
Sarah Jordan?
Did you talk about the grad council search for internal? No? Okay. So I got an email today for the internal reviewers, and they are seeking 8 people on graduate faculty. They can't be a teaching assistant or anything like that. Preferably from an engineering program or chemistry. And it is to go over accreditation and review the programs. If anyone knows of any graduate faculty that would be willing to do that, please let me know. That's all.
But they they should contact you if they have interest. All right.
Or Derek, he's also on the same committee.
All right. Any other announcements from the floor? Well then, I'm happy to call the meeting and adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
All
in favor? Yay! Aye.
All opposed?
All opposed? Please grab food on your way out. Grab beverages. Lauren's a great chef. Eat some of that potato salad. I can imagine that egg salad even better. Put that on a sandwich. Make a sandwich out of that. There's also chili back there that John spent 6 hours making.
You got the mic.
Your house? All right, hang on a second. Let me stop this.
No, you can hold on to them. It doesn't matter to me.